I was very excited when Maria Finkelmeier invited me to collaborate with her alongside Martha and Sofie on this incredible Threads of Assumption project.
We hopped on a call with Maria. There was a lot of energy at that point.
All of a sudden, we were diving in and talking about data, thinking about all of those bigger implications. So it really felt like a beautiful marriage.
We are all speaking the same language.
Who are you? I don't even know you anymore.
This project has been a year and a half in the making, but actually really just was woven together in the last 3 weeks between Martha, Sofie, U-Meleni, and myself to start with this just very broad idea. Can AI teach us anything about gender-based harm?
I was drawn to it by the idea of what would happen if we had computers interpret our personal stories, and what lessons could we learn, what similarities or differences.
Really also the AI agent being a character in itself in the project was essential.
Definitely the minority victim mentality.
We've been talking together and collecting data and had this sort of idea for what the installation might be. And when we came in and saw the space, we sort of had to table everything. We were moving through this project, not seeing or hearing it.
And I got into the space via FaceTime. So I wasn't even in here. And as soon as the camera did a pan, it was, okay, our initial idea is out.
Once we got into the space, the show really started to evolve around the actual beautiful blank spaces just ready to have something hung in them.
To really see the same ideas come across in so many different manifestations.
From the large-scale loom I have behind us to the individual weavings on the walls and even the projection. So it's all very incorporated with the space and inspired by the space, I would say.
I wear heels when I produce mine. Body isn't producing shows, people. Culture reinforces certain things.
I do feel like this was a very powerful collaboration because of our specific artistic skill sets were very different, but somehow were woven together in this really special way. So we were all able to discuss what the data looked like, discuss how we felt about it, how we were trying to read it, but then we kind of all went in the corner and we said, okay, now with our artistic brain, with our creativity, we're gonna approach this. For me, that meant looking at a lot of numbers, which were essentially percentages of emotion that each conversation expressed. And I assigned each of those emotions to a key on the keyboard. And what came out was just some really gibberish music. And then as a human, I went in and tried to layer those ideas and try to bring the human back to that music. As soon as, Sofie and Martha brought in the visualizations of the data that were very connected to my process.
We ended up essentially making basic fifth grade bar charts, and those ended up being translated into weavings. I think that this weaving is really interesting because I actually learned something from the data by setting this. This weaving demonstrates the absence of emotion in white within a conversation and the summary of bad feel and the summary of good feel emotions, negative and positive. About each inch is one conversation. All 22 are represented here. I think I was just really overwhelmed by how much non-emotion the AI saw in the conversation. I think only about 30% of these conversations actually got transformed into emotional data or sentiment data.
And then U-Meleni brought the language that then added that kind of emotional peak and valley for our performance.
When I was sifting through the conversations that came from this AI platform, where two people would share their stories and talk about their experiences, and then it would be anonymized, the data. And then we as the creatives would sort of look through the data and sift and find sort of the ties that bind, the threads of assumption that we would have as the humans in this paradigm. But what I found most interesting was their stories mirrored my own story. And how is that possible, that there is a common thread of experience that was extracted from AI, and that was illuminating.
It's unbelievable. The things we're talking about are universal, and they've been going on for a very, very long time. And
I look behind me, there's code running right now. I took part in one of the conversations with my mother-in-law, and I can't tell you which words are from our conversation. I don't know, because they all could have been, right? It's not identifiable for one conversation.
You're either with us or against us.
Something occurred to me. Data can be represented in so many ways. Like the numbers themselves feel so opaque to me. I don't do numbers, but I do visuals. Like that makes more sense to me than that. We turn this stuff into craft, like, and in a good way, craft. Like words that are embodied, sound that like occupies the space. So, and weavings, like women's craft, like that is so cool that or very organically came out of this process.
So I think what we really learned is we are just scratching the surface of the potential of this idea. That is a pretty hefty statement because the process and the product only brought more questions. How we used the AI, how the algorithm is very flawed. Essentially, we feel like this was a beautiful prototype of what might come next. And are really grateful for that. It was also very vulnerable to be here in the space to watch people, you theorize, like, this is how people are gonna take their thread, this is what they're gonna think, this is how they'll react to the music and the words. But to actually see those humans experience it, just like the data needed humans to kind of extrapolate meaning. And we needed humans to like connect with some of these ideas that we were sharing.
Drumlines, use your privilege. Uplift others. Social media doesn't care about right or wrong, or accuracy, or whatever. Would rather die or lose all my friends than go through the silence again. Drumlines, drumlines, drumlines.